Selling You to You is part of the Selling for Real series. This training title investigates the importance of confidence and self-esteem for sales staff. Why do some people have that magic something that enables them to get on well with customers? What is self-esteem? Why is it important for salespeople? These and other psychological issues are investigated by Jeremy Clarkson and guest expert Dr. Terry Callard.
On this disc, you'll meet two characters, Stephen Lowson, whose confidence is low, and Brian Highbury, whose confidence, despite a difficult market, is better. Whichever of the two characters you identify with, there's something in this program for you. If your confidence is low, you'll be interested in following the fortunes of Stephen Lowson. If, on the other hand, your confidence is high, you'll find this program interesting because it investigates methods to understand why and to keep it high.
As you progress through the disc, you'll find short personal questionnaires which help you to find out more about your own level of self-esteem and associated characteristics. Have a go at them and take note about what you discover about yourself.
Pointless days. Yeah, what is that? 80, 90 working hours? 90 hours without selling so much as a roof rack. 90 hours earning not 1 penny over basic. 90 long, wasted hours. You know, Stephen, being your inner voice is hard work. You constantly disappoint me. For one thing, you drink too much too much. Now take Brian. Sure, he likes a drink or two. Who doesn't? But he knows when to call it a day. Now, who am I to say? But perhaps that's why he sold, 3 or is it 4 cars already this week? I'll tell you something. You better sell a car today, that's all I can say. No, I mean it. I've been pretty bloody patient with you. Too bloody patient, probably. If you don't sell a car today, with a healthy margin, well, you might as well forget it, become a traffic warden or something. That's right, go on, light up, try and smoke me up, why don't you? God, you look awful. There must be millions of car salesmen in the world. Why do I have to end up as inner voice to you? Why do I have to end up as inner voice to you?
You know, even if you're a pretty successful salesperson, I'm sure you'll know how it feels to fall below what you consider good performance. In which case, you'll identify with the way Stephen, the salesman in that opening scene, feels. For all of us, there are times when we're hard on ourselves, times when we're dragged down by our own nagging inner voice. Stephen's trap is a familiar one. The less you sell, the more you feel the pressure on you to sell. The more pressure you feel, the less relaxed you feel, and somehow that seems to ensure that you can't sell much of anything to anybody. You're caught in a vicious circle in which you tell yourself that you can't sell. It's a real problem, a problem that can have a real effect on sales performance. And that's why, in this edition of Selling for Real, we'll be tackling the psychological issue head on. In the end, it's all about the way you look at yourself, because experience proves that the way you feel about yourself affects the way you feel about others. If you like him or her in the mirror, you're more likely to get on with him or her out there in the world of work. And of course, that includes getting on with your customers. In fact, research shows that a salesperson with what psychologists call high self-esteem, in other words, a salesperson who feels good about himself or herself, is more likely to be successful than a salesperson with low self-esteem. It's as simple as that. But more importantly, this research also shows that self-esteem isn't fixed. There are things you and I can do to improve it. So let's start by looking at the importance of self-esteem in our everyday work. Self-esteem describes the way we feel about ourselves. Think of yourself as two separate people, one watching and judging the other, as you might sometimes do to a close relative or friend. So when you watch and judge yourself, what do you reckon? Do you like what you see? Do you respect what you see? Do you feel comfortable or confident about what you see? Do you feel that this person that is you is good at their job? Could they be better? Answering sensitive questions like these will give you an idea of your own level of self-esteem. As we've seen in Stephen Lowson's case, his self-esteem is not all it might be. Later on, we'll look at the specifics of Stephen's feelings and contrast them with those of his more cheerful colleague, Brian Highbury. But how does anyone come to a view of how they feel about themselves, good or bad? What evidence do we consider when we judge ourselves? Well, two types. Number one, we talk to ourselves about ourselves, usually in our heads, but occasionally, when under emotional stress, out loud. Secondly, we can't help but take account of what other people tell us about ourselves. Obviously, both these chunks of evidence vary all the time, literally from minute to minute. This is, of course, why our level of self-esteem is itself variable.
Here are the 7 reasons why Stephen Lowson feels bad about himself.
He hasn't sold a car for 10 days. His wage packet is therefore low. He's disappointed with himself. He's drinking and smoking too much. He thinks Brian Highbury is doing better than him. He's getting impatient with himself. He's wondering if he's in the right job.
Now find out about your own level of self-esteem when at work. Which statements do you agree with, disagree with, or don't know about?
I feel that I'm a person of worth, or at least on equal basis with others. I feel that I have a number of good qualities. All in all, I'm inclined to feel that I'm a failure. I am able to do things as well as most other people. I feel I do not have much to be proud of. I take a positive attitude towards myself. On the whole, I am satisfied with myself. I wish I could have more respect for myself. I certainly feel useless at times. At times, I think I'm no good at all.
Self-esteem is simply the opinion you have of yourself on a realistic basis. It's important because it affects how well you perform. You have a very healthy outlook and a positive regard for yourself, which will communicate itself to others. You work well and appear to be confident without being arrogant. Take care not to let events get you down.
So the level of our self-esteem depends upon 2 lumps of evidence. First, there's what we tell ourselves about ourselves, like, Jeremy, you're a truly cool and inspired driver, or, Jeremy, with a bit more training, you could have played in golf for England. And then there's a body of external evidence from other people, which, sad to say, may not always confirm our own internal views. But that, as they say, is life. It's by putting these 2 views together that we arrive at an understanding of who we are, and therefore arrive at our own level of self-esteem. So, getting back to the business of selling cars, how might the way we see ourselves and talk to ourselves impact on our effectiveness at work? As we've seen, Stephen Lowson's self-esteem is suffering because he hasn't sold a car for 10 days. But that's only half the story. His inner voice is hardly what you'd call helpful.
You would have had no problem with that at all. You'd have snapped them up. Do you know, I've worked out that you've spoken to 57 potential customers. That's 57 people who decided not to buy a car from you. 0 out of 57, a 0% conversion rate. Not bad. You can only improve, I suppose. Not that you'll ever get near Brian Highbury. Look, he's probably about to close another deal right now.
Despite what you've just heard, Brian Highbury has only sold one more car than Stephen in the past 10 days. It won't surprise you to hear that Brian's inner voice takes a different line from Stephen's.
Still, you did all you could. Full appraisal, test drive, finance presentation. After all, she said originally she'd only just come in to look around. Also, she liked you. There's still a good long-term chance she might come back. So make a note to give her a call in a couple of days. You never know. Some people need time to think. In the meantime, all you can do is pursue every old lead in the book. Keep at it. Oh, and before I go, remember to give Mike Drew a ring. You want to fix up a drink with him and Laura next week, weren't you? Happy hunting.
Consider the different way in which the two salesmen speak to themselves. What effect is their inner voice likely to have on their performance? Stephen's inner voice nags him and emphasizes negative aspects of his performance. Brian's inner voice is helpful and emphasizes positive aspects of his working day. It's obvious which one will perform better when faced with a demanding or difficult situation. But how about you? Try talking to yourself. What does your inner voice sound like? Are you being hard on yourself or encouraging? Perhaps a little of both. But remember, the brain is fertile ground. Take care what you plant in it.
So it's obvious when you think about it, we all talk to ourselves in very different ways. Some people's inner voice is patient and encouraging, while others have a dreadful nag inside their head, blaming them for every little thing that goes wrong around them, hence their low self-esteem. Now the point is, if you do have a nag in your head, can you do anything about it? Some think not. However, there are experts who suggest that it is possible to de-nag yourself, and one such man is Dr. Terry Kellard, who works here at Warwick University, and I've come to see him. I hope his couch is long enough.
And you must know from your own sort of personal experience that you have a little voice inside your head that talks to you about what's going on and all the rest of it. It's just that most people are not really aware of it and don't try to control it. So what I'm suggesting to you is that you think about your little voice, you recognize that it exists, and that you actually quite deliberately talk to yourself about yourself. I know it sounds silly, but if you expect to succeed, you will. And if you don't expect to succeed, you won't.
So let's suppose somebody's got to within an ace of buying a V6 605 and then at the last minute they say, oh, I'm sorry, company policy, I've got to buy a Ford Granada. There's nothing you can do about that, is there?
Well, what you tend to do is to blame the people or blame yourself rather than the situation in which you find yourself. So what you need to do in a situation like this is to get your little voice talking to you to get a more realistic appreciation of what the situation is. Bear in mind, your natural tendency is to blame yourself. Therefore, what you've got to do is say, I'm blaming myself. Now let's have a look at this situation in a sort of logical way. If you pretend to be cheerful, that you will gradually become more cheerful, because what you're doing is changing your behavior. And after all, what you're trying to do all the time is to come across to other people as being effective rather than feeling effective inside. But the one follows the other. Works very well.
Because smiling actually does make you feel better, doesn't it?
Well, the interesting thing is if you smile or laugh, there is a chemical reaction which actually improves your mood. So if you deliberately smile or deliberately laugh, you will actually feel happier.
I must try smiling in a traffic jam once in a while.
If you can visualize yourself being successful, perhaps by thinking about the last time you were successful and the effect of it and all the rest of it, you'll find that your confidence will automatically improve, and that will communicate itself to the customer.
Now, I know you advocate steering clear of moaning minis and whinges and so on.
Yes, I would have thought that was fairly obvious, bearing in mind that what you're trying to do is to improve your mood and improve your self-esteem. You'll find that if you find yourself in miserable situations, it will make you miserable. So the best thing to do is avoid that. Not only that, it's even more effective if you seek out happy situations. There's got to be some benefit and some immediate benefit to you for your success. So as soon as you have a success, you need to have a reward. On the whole, it doesn't matter how small that reward is, but as soon as you've done something well, made a phone call to an important customer or something else like that, have that cream cake that you promised yourself. That's rewarding for a particular success. And you will find that your performance will improve the more that you reward yourself. It becomes circular. It works well.
OK, so if you believe Dr. Kellard, you can manage your own self-esteem to your own advantage. However, this being selling for real, we never believe the experts. So we went out into the field to test these theories against the experience of some of your colleagues.
Yes, I do think there is a link between your own confidence and, how many cars you sell. The customer can always tell how you're feeling, and I think if you're feeling confident and happy and cheerful, then it will reflect in the customer.
If you go in with the attitude that you're not going to sell a car, then you won't sell that car. If you go in with the attitude that you are going to sell it, you stand more of a chance of selling that vehicle.
I think it is important to have realistic expectations, because it's just not possible to sell a car to everybody who comes in to see you.
And I think that expectations are very important. I mean, you're talking about the self-fulfilling prophecy, aren't you? And if you think negative and look negative, then sure, negative things will happen because you're attracting them. It's like a magnet attracting the negative.
I think the best thing to do if you feel really fed up is to cut it out your mind, especially if it's, say, your personal life or home or whatever. When you walk in the door in the morning, cut it off. You can't do anything about it anyway, and just forget about it for the day.
I think you have to be able to separate problems full stop from your work, yes, because your work is, if you like, on the car sales side, is a people job. You're talking to people all the time. The product obviously is always there, but if you're not relating to the individual you're talking to, then it doesn't matter how good your product, you're not going to do business.
When I've spoken to a customer and I haven't bought a car from myself and I know they've bought somewhere else, then I do look at why they didn't buy. A lot of the time it's down to the product or down to the services that we're offering, but I will analyse that to make sure that it's not down to my own fault. I don't consciously sit down and think about it, but you just run it through your mind, perhaps as you're doing something else.
I don't think I could do that. I think I would still come over to the customer that I'm not happy. I don't think you can actually pretend to be cheerful.
You can pretend to be cheerful, but I think you've got to feel it inside in order to give them to make people realise that you are. If you put it on a smile, it may turn into a sarcastic smile or something like that if it's not a true smile.
I don't know. I would say it's difficult to pretend to be cheerful. I would say you either are you or aren't. Even in the worst times, you tend to be, yes. But I've never tried. I'll try it sometime. Never tried it.
Well, fine in an ideal laboratory world, but unfortunately we have to deal with all manner of people, all manner of things, and you can't escape from the negative attitude. or the negative situations. It'd be wonderful if you could. Unfortunately, we are living in the real world with real people confronting us.
I think your colleagues can have an influence on you. If they've just sold a car, they'll be sort of on a high and they'll pass that on to you, but on the other side, if they're depressed, then that will rub off on you.
I mean, if you're having a laugh and a joke, say, with the lads in the workshop, you'll come back in the showroom, you'll see a customer, you'll still be smiling.
I reward myself if I get a good wage packet at the end of the month, and yes, I might think I'll treat myself something out of that, but not for doing certain tasks. And again, rewarding is down to whether you can afford it at the time. If I can afford something, then yeah.
Dr. Kellard suggests a number of ways for improving self-esteem. Here are his tips.
What you expect to happen will happen. Don't blame yourself. Analyze yourself. Pretend to be cheerful. Visualize your own success. Avoid people who whinge. Reward yourself.
To look at these more closely, select one of these buttons. When you're ready to move on, click on the Continue button.
I know it sounds a bit daft to pretend to be cheerful, but it really does work. Misery loves company, particularly miserable company. So, the more miserable you are, the more miserable you're likely to become. It also works the other way around. If you pretend to be cheerful, other people are cheerful around you and respond to you in a happy way so that you actually do feel better. If you laugh or smile, it actually releases chemicals which make you feel happier. It makes you change your behaviour. When you do something well, it's more worthwhile if there is some immediate benefit to you. The problem with pay or commission is that it takes a long time to come through so that you forget what it's for. The salesperson needs a more immediate benefit, but this need not be very big. For example, if you've had a good week, take your partner out for a meal. If you have a good thing happen, have a bar of chocolate or some other treat. Get into the habit of rewarding yourself in a small way when you achieve something good. It makes you feel good. Don't underestimate the power of your imagination. It can change your mood quite substantially. For example, imagine the last time you were successful. It will make you feel good and can change your internal attitudes and mood, which in turn will make you more successful.
So there seems to be a general consensus that we can improve our level of self-esteem. But why bother? Can it really make a difference to your ability to sell cars and make money? Well, let's see. Here's Jenny Muller. Is she in a buying mood? Well, even she's not sure. That decision is a long way down the line. Right now, what matters is finding a pleasant, helpful salesperson.
Uh-oh, another time waster. I bet she says she's just looking. Looks a bit snotty to me. Hello, madam, how can I help you?
Well, I'm not sure, really. I'm at the early stages right now. I was really just looking to see what's available.
Fine. Fine? She's wasting your time, I tell you. So, have you seen a brochure?
No, but really it's the cars I'm interested in. That's why I've come in. I haven't got long. It's my lunch hour. Well, half an hour more like.
I see. You'd be better off hitting the phone. She's wasting your time. No way is she a buyer. No way. So what are you driving at the moment?
Oh, a Golf. Just a 1.6. Not exactly exciting. That's why I thought
Well, VW and excitement never really did go together, did they? I mean, it's a bit like what I say about the Germans. Reliable, but, you know, well, boring. But, what were you planning to spend, Miss,
Mrs. Muller. I've no idea. As little as possible.
I see. Well, the 106 is a nice car. Perhaps you'd have a really good look at it. I mean, on the inside.
It's a bit small.
Well, it might look small from the outside, but once you get in, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. In fact, Peugeot caught
Stephen is just as well trained as Brian is. He knows perfectly well what he should be doing. Letting the customer relax and moving gently into a qualification procedure, involving finding out what the prospect drives now, what they've got to spend, what their timescale is, and what their needs for the new car might be. But something is getting in the way of the process, and that something is Stephen's low self-esteem. So let's rewind the tape and see how Brian might have got on.
Good afternoon. Are you happy looking, or can we help in any way?
Well, yes, thank you. I'm only at the early stages at the moment, you know, just looking. But I know I've got to change the car.
They all say that. They're just looking. Give it a whirl. She looks like a retail buyer to me. So what sort of car are you driving at the moment?
It's a Golf, and not exactly the best condition Golf you've ever seen in your life, but mechanically it seems pretty much okay. Touch wood.
Well, I'm sure I'll have seen a lot worse. Bodywork can always be sorted out. Is it your company car?
No, it's my own.
Told you. And a Golf. 3 to 1 says she's a buyer. Well, we're always interested in privately owned Golfs. We can usually retail them second-hand without too much trouble. How many miles has it done?
28,000. It's white, 1.6, sunshine roof, just over 3 years old. What else can I tell you? I've got it outside if you'd like to look at it.
Sure. Sounds interesting. Let's go.
Fine. It's just by that row of 205s.
Great. After you. See you later.
Hello and welcome back. Or alternatively, hello and welcome back. As the song says, it ain't what you do, it's the way that you do it. It ain't what you say, it's the way that you say it. And the punchline, that's what gets results. Well, that's what the song says, but I wonder what the experts have to say.
If you look at Brian, he is what we would call a resilient character. He's confident, has high levels of self-esteem, and resists attempt to reduce his self-esteem. Because he is confident, he was able to remain in control of the situation, and not only that, was able to adapt to any changes in the situation. The converse was true with Steve. You'll find that as far as Steve was concerned, he was protecting his self-esteem. He wasn't very resilient. As a consequence of that, he tended to lose control of the situation and was not able to adapt when the customer presented him with opportunities.
So, the way you talk to yourself affects your self-esteem and your resilience, both vital traits in successful selling. But what about those other concepts? Dr. Kellard mentioned that Brian seemed more adaptable and had more control. Let's look a little deeper. Stephen is fighting with his inner voice rather than working with it. His inner voice has already told him that he has no chance of selling a car. He's now in battle mode, determined to sell somehow. As a result, he isn't adapting his tactics to the customer.
And as you can see, it really is quite a size once you get in.
So you keep saying.
So you keep saying.
Every attempt Stephen makes to gain control is hampered by his inability to do something far more fundamental. His inability to slow down and listen to the customer.
She really liked those. Perhaps you'd prefer something bigger. What's the point? She hasn't got any money anyway.
Well, yes, maybe. Look, I think perhaps it's easiest if I take that brochure after all, then I can have a good look at the different models you've got.
Fine. Fine. Goodbye then. Why wait for the brochure? You won't read it anyway. Go and waste somebody else's time. I bet you say that you'll get back to him. I bet. Go on. Here you go.
Thanks.
I think you'll find everything you need in there.
Great. Well, I'll get back to you then. Right, so this
Meanwhile, had Jenny been with Brian, the appraisal would have long been completed, and he'd be back into the swing of qualifying her for a new car.
Right.
So Something around the size of a Golf, maybe even a bit bigger, but preferably with a boot.
Yes.
How do you feel about the 405?
Oh, I don't know. It's a bit sort of family mannish. You know, I'm not sure it's me.
How do you mean?
Because Brian's self-esteem is not threatened, he feels free to ask open questions about why Jenny doesn't like this car or that. He's confident enough to accept that this sort of information can help him to adapt his tactics.
You could try her with the 309, and don't rule out the sporty 405. Maybe it doesn't have to be new. I mean, does it have to be a new car? I mean, would you consider a low-mileage, even ex-demonstration used car?
Hadn't really thought of that. What are you thinking of?
She's biting. I've got a very nice 405 SRI. It's only done about 8,000 miles.
8,000?
Notice that Brian controls without dominating. Indeed, the difference between the two is all about self-esteem. People who dominate, who need to be seen to be in command, often have poor self-esteem. They make poor listeners and, in a sales situation, often fail to adapt their tactics to the customer. Brian is in control, but he is not dominating.
So, anything else?
Well, yes. Something a bit nippier would be nice. Well, the Golf's okay, but, well, I could stand a bit more acceleration. Well, provided it doesn't cost the earth.
Sounds like the SRI fits the bill. Let's go and look at it.
Sure, why not?
Consider why Brian Highbury is having more success than Stephen Lowson. In this scene, we've looked at how Stephen and Brian deal with the same customer. Jeremy tells us that at the outset that it's not clear whether the customer, Jenny Muller, is in a buying mood. As he says as she enters the showroom, what matters is finding a pleasant, helpful salesperson. How do Stephen and Brian deal with this situation?
Steve's inner voice tells him she's another time waster before he's even met her. Brian has an open mind. Steve doesn't smile. Brian smiles. When Jenny says she's just looking, Stephen offers a brochure. Brian's inner voice reminds him that everybody says that. He continues to sell cheerfully. Trying too hard, Stephen makes an ill-judged joke about Germans. Brian compliments her car. He goes on to qualify her further by asking, "Is it your company car?" Stephen fails to qualify Jenny on price or needs. He loses control. Brian asks questions and moves on to an appraisal. He continues to listen and qualify. He adapts his sales pitch. Stubbornly, Stephen insists on trying to sell her a small 106. Naturally, he fails to sell her anything. Brian gets a better feel for what Jenny needs in a car and is able to move her into seriously considering a 405 SRI.
Think about the customers you've met in the past 10 days or so. Jot down what you think you did well and what you could improve on. When you're happy with your list, click on the Continue button. At this point, it's time to answer 3 questionnaires. You'll see how well you control situations, adapt to changing circumstances, and create empathy. Think about yourself and how you behave at work. Following are a series of 10 statements which describe how people feel or how they behave. Read each statement and consider whether you agree with it or not. Indicate your answer by clicking on the appropriate response.
Many people's misfortunes result from the mistakes they make. There will always be wars, no matter how hard people try to prevent them. In the long run, people get the respect they deserve in this world. No matter how hard you try, some people just don't like you. I have often found that what is going to happen will happen. Becoming a success is a matter of hard work. Luck has little or nothing to do with it. When I make plans, I am certain that I can make them work. Most people don't realize the extent to which their lives are controlled by accidental happenings. Many times I feel that I have little influence over the things that happen to me.
To be an effective salesperson, you do need to believe that you can influence customer decisions. This questionnaire measures your confidence in your ability to influence or control things that happen in life generally. If you're confident in your ability to influence your life, you're pretty sure of being able to influence customers. You don't seem too sure of what to expect. You think you should be able to control events but don't quite believe yourself. Try harder and you're likely to succeed. Now let's look at adaptability. Think about yourself and how you behave at work. Following is a series of statements which describe how people feel or how they behave. Consider each statement and indicate whether you agree or not.
When I work in a group, I like to take charge of things. A strong person doesn't show his emotions and feelings. I must admit that it makes me angry when other people interfere with my daily activity. It bothers me when something unexpected interrupts my daily routine. I don't like to undertake any project unless I have a pretty good idea as to how it will turn out. I don't like things to be uncertain and unpredictable. I would be uncomfortable in any other than fairly conventional dress. I keep out of trouble at all costs. I would like the job of a foreign correspondent for a newspaper. I always follow the rule, business before pleasure.
People vary considerably in their habits, moods and personalities, so the successful salesperson needs to have the ability to adapt his or her behaviour to the customer. Unfortunately, some salespeople have very strong ideas and are not prepared to adapt or change them. You have the ability to adapt to situations, but tend to get locked into one way of dealing with them. You need to develop strategies for dealing with different people and learn how to change. And finally, here are 10 statements relating to empathy. Make your choices as before.
In a sales situation, I have the ability to alter my behavior if I feel something else is called for. I am often able to read a customer's true emotions correctly through their eyes. I have the ability to control the way I come across to people, depending on the impression I wish to give them. In conversations, I am sensitive to even the slightest change in the facial expression of the person I am conversing with. My powers of intuition are quite good when it comes to understanding others' emotions and motives. I can usually tell when others consider a joke to be in bad taste, even though they may laugh convincingly. When I feel that the image I am portraying isn't working, I can readily change it to something that does. I can usually tell when I've said something inappropriate by reading it in the customer's eyes. I have trouble changing my behavior to suit different people and different situations. If someone is lying to me, I usually know it at once from that person's manner and expression.
Empathy is the ability to put yourself in the other person's situation. You can understand how they're feeling and understand what they are thinking. A salesperson needs a certain amount of empathy, but too much understanding can mean that you find it difficult to disagree or bargain when you need to. You appear to understand a bit about others, but may lack sensitivity. You need to be more open in expressing your feelings and in responding to others.
As we said right at the beginning of this video, self-esteem isn't fixed. It can be altered.
Brian, I've known it bad, but I've never known it this bad.
I know what you mean. When things are bad, you can't help thinking they're going to get worse.
I don't know, I feel like I'm getting worse. Like it's my fault. I don't know.
Hey, come on, Steve. Last quarter, you did better than I did.
Sure, last bloody quarter. Seems like last bloody century. Jeez, it has to get better. It has to.
Who knows? But you know, whatever happens, give yourself a break. You know, it's not your fault. If you could just, well, relax. Get back to your old self.
Maybe worryless. Careless, I suppose.
Maybe.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
You know, you're good. No, I'm not taking the mickey, really. Could be that's why you're so hard on yourself, you know.
Maybe. Okay. I get the message. Stop whinging.
It might help. That'll be for me. Catch you later.
The best way to get your self-esteem altered is to be told good things about yourself. Not flattering things, honest, positive truths. So if you know one of your colleagues is having a hard time, you can help. It won't just cheer them up, it'll make them better at their job. And if you're the one having a hard time, you can always have a word with your inner voice yourself.
Stephen Larson.
Stephen, your inner voice here.
You again.
Yes, it's me. Now listen, about that VW...
No, hang on, you listen. Okay, it wasn't a brilliant joke, I accept that. And before you say anything, yes, I was nervous. You made me nervous.
Oh, really?
Yes, really. Anyway, as I was saying, okay, it was a bad joke, and yes, I was nervous, and yes, I haven't sold a car for over a week or so. But then it turns out Brian's only sold one, and Trish is in exactly the same position as I am.
I'd better have a word with her about that, hadn't
Don't
I?
bother. And quite frankly, don't bother me again either. Well, unless you can be more positive. I'm not that bad. It will get better. Just get off my back.
Hey, all right. I may sometimes be hard to live with, but one thing I don't do is bear a grudge. I was just about to say, you seem more yourself.
I am. Oh, and by the way, I may not sell a car for a few more days yet, and I don't wish to hear you whinging on about it.
Fine, no problem. Good for you.
Yes. Anyway, listen, I really must go. I've got work to do.
Sure. Talk to you later then.
Fine. Bye then.
Stephen Lowson's self-esteem improved in the previous scene for two reasons. Firstly, his colleague, Brian Highbury, cheered him up by emphasising the positive aspects of the situation. Secondly, Stephen took control of his inner voice. Here are 4 sections you can study when setting your long-term strategy for improving self-esteem. Select whichever you want to see by clicking on the buttons.
Have a rational perspective. Awareness of a problem is 80% of the solution, particularly when you reduce the emotion involved. You can apply this approach to use your inner voice to dispute any irrational beliefs. This can be done in the following way. Identify the problem area. Think about relevant data or evidence. Think about the evidence as objectively as possible. Argue and dispute any negative, irrational ideas. Generate a positive solution. Evaluate a variety of alternatives. Decide on action. Implement. Critique and review. Set clear goals. Balance short-term and long-term objectives. Develop action plans. Use time effectively. Learn to pace yourself. Review your progress. Do you have all the resources necessary for achieving success in your present one? Is the overall situation too demanding? Are you expecting too much of yourself? Are other people making unrealistic demands on you? Is your assessment of yourself too severe? Understand the sales situation and the cause of your feelings. Identify your likely emotional response to a stressful situation, for example, apathy, anxiety, or anger. Gain control over your internal dialogue. Use affirmations. Release emotional tension in the right place at the right time. As Henry Ford said, if you think you can, or if you think you can't, either way, you will be right.
Right at the start of this programme, I promised we'd demonstrate the link between self-esteem and effective selling. I'm sure you'll now agree that such a link does exist, so it's worth working on your self-esteem in some of the ways we've looked at. In particular, have a word with him or her indoors, the old inner voice. As the old saying goes, if you tell yourself you can achieve a goal, you will achieve it. Though, of course, hard work, self-discipline and training also help. It's not all about mind games. Now, speaking about goals and achieving them, or should I say goals and saving them, I've got some training of my own to do. So thanks very much for watching. I'll see you again soon.
Come on, come on, come on, do your work.
Let's end with a final analysis of your scores. From what you've learned, make notes on how you think you can improve these results as part of your long-term strategy and refer to them from time to time.